Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negro. Now, for the benefit of those of you who are not familiar with this channel or watching this channel for the first time, whether it be live or at some point on the playback, the reason why it is called Uncommon Sense because here on this platform we discuss everyday issues where we try to find logical solutions, but not everyone uses logic. So, for that reason, it is called Uncommon Sense. Now, I want to let everybody know that I'm currently live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Also, I want to let everybody know that the subscriber mode has been enabled, meaning that sorry, meaning that if you're not a subscriber and if you wish to enter a comment on the chat, you need to subscribe to the channel. As always, I want to give a huge shout out to all those who already subscribed to the channel, whether you've been there from the beginning or just recently subscribed to the channel. I really appreciate all of you very much. I want to give also a huge shout out to all those who follow me on social media, whether it be Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, or any other form of social media. And also, I want to give a huge shout out to all those who allow me to enter into your devices. So, what I'm going to ask you to do is the following. If you have not done so, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe, like, and hit the bell notification to all. So, therefore, whenever I do produce content, you will have the opportunity either to catch it live or catch it on the playback. Um, when I did plan to have this stream, um, of course, I didn't think I would be have another YouTube creator during their stream at the same time. Unfortunately, things like that happen. Okay, so and of course, I'm not casting any shade. Radical Latino, he has his debate with someone from the FBA. So, it just happens that way. Okay. So, I suspect that many people will catch this stream on the playback, which is, hey, it happens. Okay. I mean, it is what it is. So, with that in mind, before we get into the main topic, I just want to make a disclaimer that's perfectly clear. And tonight's stream, we're going to be talking about where baby boomers have made mistakes, okay? And some of them, unfortunately, some baby boomers did not do a great job raising their children, did not do a great job setting a role model um, for younger generations. So tonight's stream is not meant to be judgmental against baby boomers, but we have to speak the truth that there have been times that as a collective, baby boomers have screwed up. Okay. So, and I hope if there are baby boomers that are watching this stream, to please bear that in mind. It's not meant to be to pass judgment on our collective, but we have to be honest and we have to accept the truth. Okay. So, that being said, we're going to get into the main topic. Okay. So, as you can see by the thumbnail, the topic for tonight is where baby boomers got it wrong. Okay. And I'm going to give you, if you forgive the biblical term, the genesis regarding tonight's topic. Um, it comes from the following inspiration. Um, part of it comes from previous streams, um, Radical Latino and my Salvador, Denise Gonzalez, uh, spoke about the issues regarding the African American community, mainly um, the older members of the community, meaning people who were baby boomers and Gen X people. And those streams will discuss the reason why the problem have existed, because unfortunately there have been times where baby boomers from the African American community did not do such a great job in raising younger generations, and unfortunately, as a result, that produced younger generations of people that have um, a defeatist mentality, which they don't accept accountability for their actions, and they blame the government for everything. They blame everybody but themselves for the choices that they have made, and also talking about things that happened 300 years ago, 200 years ago, 100 years ago, and so on. Now, I understand that this country was racist from the beginning, and those policies has affected not just the African American community, but other communities as well, and had a negative impact. However, it's what you deal with the set of circumstances that you were given to will make a determination whether or not you're going to overcome it or you're just going to be um, a victim. Okay, so that was, and the other motivation was that um, in the past, Denise Gonzalez had said some things regarding my community, which in the beginning it did not sit well with me. Okay, and of course I acted in my feelings, and I got upset about it. However, upon reflection, what Denise was saying regarding my generation um, was factual. And the fact of the matter is, part of the problem with perhaps with the rise of single parents, it's because of mistakes that we as baby boomers have made. So, so I made the decision as a baby boomer that I was going to own up to the fact that we have made our mistakes. We cannot outdo the past. What we can do as baby boomers is accept accountability for our actions, and then going forward, do our best to do better for the younger generations and do everything we can to make sure that uh, that the younger generations, which is the millennials and the Gen Z people, do not make the same mistakes that we made. Okay? So what I'm going to do is the following. Um, First of all, I'm going to drop the link. Um, should anyone wishes to join the panel. Now, let me just, before we start talking about the main topic, let me just indicate the following. Okay. This is a safe zone where everyone, and I mean everyone, is encouraged to share their point of view, but they must do it in a respectful manner. Okay. Also, I cannot and I will not allow anyone on the panel to monopolize the time and not allow others in the panel to speak. So I will do my best to make sure everyone has an opportunity to speak. I'm going to ask that everyone please stick to the topic at hand. No talk about anything that's not related to the topic. Okay. Also, no, I don't want any disrespect being shown towards anyone on the panel or the chat or myself. Okay. Any sign of disrespect, if you continue to do this, you will be removed from the panel or you will be blocked. It's that simple. Okay. So that being said, I'm gonna what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try see if I can share my screen. Okay. Okay. Hopefully it will show up. Okay. Okay. Unfortunately, sometimes it takes a okay. Here it is. Now I came across this article from a source called Vox. Okay. And this is an interesting article talking about how baby boomers, not millennials, screwed America. Now, let me just explain to you why we're getting to discussion. Because unfortunately, when we think about the millennials, we often think of them as people who are spoiled, entitled, uh, people who do not want to work hard, people who don't value things. And we fail to understand that part of what the millennials are the results of being raised by baby boomers and early Gen X people. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this article and then we're going to have a discussion. Okay. And actually, the person who wrote this article is Sean Lining. As you can see in the headline, says the boomers inherited a rich dynamic country and have gradually bankrupted. Okay. And to be honest, I was kind of hoping that Denise Gonzalez will stop by to share her viewpoints. Maybe she'll join the panel or get into the chat. Or, well, in any case, we will continue. Everyone likes to bash millennials. We're spoiled, entitled, and hopelessly glued to our smartphones. We didn't participate in trophies, can't find jobs, and live with our parents until we're in 30. You know the punchlines by now. But what is the millennials that hate justified? Have we dropped the generational baton, or was it a previous generation, the so-called baby boomers, which actually ruined everything? That's the argument Bruce Gibney makes in his 2017 book, A Generation of Sociopaths, How the Baby Boomers Betrayed America. The boomers, according to Gibney, have committed generational plunder, pillaging the nation's economic, repeatedly cutting their own taxes, financing two wars with deficit, ignoring climate change, presiding over the death of American manufactured car, and leaving the future generation to clean up the mess they created. I spoke to Gibney about these claims and why he thinks the baby boomers have wrecked America. Now, let's now here's the definition regarding the baby boomers, because sometimes people don't know what's the true definition. Okay, the baby boomers are conventionally defined as people born between 1946 and 1964. But I focus on the first 2/3 of baby boomers because their experiences are pretty homogeneous. They were raised after the war and so have no real experience of trauma or the Great Depression or even any deprivation at all. More importantly, they never experienced the social solidarity that unfolded during the war time and helped produce the New Deal. But really, the whole white middle class boomers who exemplify all these awful characteristics and behaviors that have defined this generation. They became a majority of the electorate in the early 80s and fully consolidated their power in Washington by January 1995. And they were basically in charge ever since. So the question is how we've broken the country. So this is what Bruce Gidney is. His response is the following: the damage was done to the social fabric is pretty self-evident. Just look around and notice what has been done. On the economic front, the damage is equally obvious, and it trickles down to all sorts of other social phenomena. I don't want to get bogged down in an ocean of numbers and data here. That's in the book. But think of it this way. I'm 41. When I was born, the gross debt to GDP ratio was about 35%. It's roughly 103% now, and it keeps rising. The boomers inherited a rich, dynamic country and have gradually bankrupted. They have literally cut their own taxes and borrowed money without any concern on future burdens. They virtually spent all the money and assets on themselves, and in the process have left a financial disaster for their children. And I see here we have Irby. Good evening. Thank you very much. The topic for tonight is how the baby boomers got it wrong. So tonight we're going to look at about the mistakes that us baby boomers have made and how we made it worse for future generations. We used to have the finest infrastructure in the world. The American Society of Civil Engineers think that there's something like a $4 trillion deficit in infrastructure in deferred maintenance. It's crumbling, and the boomers have allowed it to crumble. Our public education system has steadily degraded as well, forcing middle-class students to bury themselves in debt in order to get a college education. And of course, there is the issue of climate change, which they have done almost nothing to solve. But even if they want to be market oriented about this, we can think of climate as an asset, which has degraded over time thanks to the inaction and cowardice of the boomer generation. Now, they did not start burning fossil fuels, but by the 1990s, the science was undeniable. And what they did? Nothing. So here's an interesting question. Why hasn't the recklessness been checked by the political system? Is it as simple as boomers took over and used power to enrich themselves without enough resistance from younger voters? Now, this is going to be the response. Most of our problems have not been addressed because they will require higher taxes and therefore a sense of social obligation to our fellow citizens. But again, the boomers seem to have no appreciation for social solidarity. But to answer your question is more directly, the problem is that dealing with these problems is simply irrelevant to the largest political class in the country, the boomers. There's nothing conspiratorial about it. Politicians responded to the most important part of the electorate, and that's been the boomers for decades. So just it happens the boomers are not socially inclined and have a ton of maladaptive personality characteristics. Okay. So now we're going to bring up the next point. It's interesting that Ronald Reagan is elected right around the time the boomers became a majority of the electorate. Reagan himself wasn't a boomer, but it was the boomers who put it into office. And this is when we get the wave of neoliberalism that essentially guts the public sector and attempts to privatize everything. Okay. Starting with Reagan, we saw the national ethos, which was basically the inverse of JFK's ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. This gets flipped over on its head in a massive push for privatization gains and social risk for big banks and financial institutions. This has really been the dominant moment economic theory, and it's poisoning what was left of our public institutions. So the next question is, so what is your explanation for the awfulness of the boomers? What made them this way? And Bruce Gibney responded in this fashion. I think there was a number of unusual influences, some which won't be repeated, and some which may have mutated over the years. I think the major factor is that the boomers grew up in a time of uninterrupted prosperity, so they simply took it for granted. They assumed that the economy would just grow 3% a year forever, and wages would go up every year, and that there will always be a good job for everyone who wanted it. Excuse me. That was a fantasy, and the result of a small generation assuming things will be easy and that no sacrifices have been made in order to preserve prosperity for future generations. So basically, it's a back and forth between these two individuals. Okay. So here's an interesting point. I always seen boomers as the generation trust fund baby. They inherited a country that had no part in building, failed to appreciate it, and seize all the benefits while leaving nothing behind, which unfortunately which was the result. And now here's an interesting point. Something that doesn't get discussed though is how hostile so many of these boomers are to science. It's not hard to connect this aversion to facts to some of these disastrous social policies. This is a generation that's dominated by feelings, not by facts. The irony that the boomers criticize millennials for being snowflakes, for being too driven by feelings. But boomers are the first big feeling generation. They are highly motivated by feelings and not persuaded by facts. And you can see this in their policies. Take the whole fantasy about trickle-down economics. Maybe it was worth a shot, but it doesn't work. We know it doesn't work. The evidence is overwhelming. The experiment is over. And yet they still cling to this dogma, and indeed the latest text bill, the latest example of that. Time after time, the facts collided with feelings, the boomers choose films. Now, I have to agree on that, particularly when my friend Denise Gonzalez um, spoke about some of the missteps that the baby boomers have created. And let's keep it real. We in many ways we have screwed up big time. Okay. And I wish Denise was here so she can share her um, insights about it. Okay. But we're going to continue nevertheless. So now we're going to get into the next question, which is what is the most egregious things the boomers have done in your opinion? Okay. And this is a response given. I'll give you something abstract and something concrete. On the abstract level, I think the worst thing that they have done is destroy the sense of social solidarity, a sense of commitment to follow its citizens. That ethos is gone and has been replaced by the cult of individualism. It's hard to overstate how damaging this is. On a concrete level, their policies of underinvestment and debt accumulation And it made it very hard to deal with the most serious challenges going forward because we have failed to confront things like infrastructure decay and climate change early on. They only grown into bigger and more expensive problems. When something breaks, it is a lot more expensive to fix it than it would have been just to maintain it all along. So the question is the following. So where does that leave us? In an impossible place. We're going to have to make difficult choices between saving Social Security and Medicare and saving Arctic ice sheets. We have fewer and fewer resources to deal with these issues. And actually, I think over the next 100 years, absent some major technology and innovation like decarbonization, which is speculated at this point, these actions will actually just kill people. My goodness gracious. So, and just for your information, Denise Gonzalez, last stream that she gave, she provided some statistical data regarding the rise of households headed by a single mother. It started more or less in the 60s and it just exploded in the 70s and 80s and 90s. And that's when during the time when my generation was raising their children. So unfortunately, the rise as far as single parents actually occurred under our watch. So that's just a concrete example where we have screwed up. So let me just continue. I hear you. And I'm with on your almost all this, but I always return to the simple point. If your millennials and Gen X is actually voted in greater numbers, the boomers would have been booted out of power years ago. I think that's fair, but given how large the boomer demographic is, it wasn't possible for millennials to unseat the boomers until a few years ago. And of course, there are many issues with voting rights, but it's not a complete excuse. More than voting, though, millennials have run for office because people have been excited about the person they're voting for. We need people in office with a different outlook, who see things the world differently. Boomers don't care about how the country will look in 30 to 40 years, but millennials do. And those are the people we need in power. On other streams, Denise Gonzalez has spoken about the fact that it's time for politicians my age and older that we need to step aside and let the millennials have an opportunity to run and be more active. Okay. The fact of the matter is, we're going to need to take the L on this and just admit the fact that we screwed up and do what we can to um, try to make things right as possible. I think at this point, the best thing we can do is acknowledge that we screwed up big time and own up to it and try to do better for the future generations. At least as far as the baby boomers that were born in the early 60s. Okay. We're still relatively young in that sense that we can, if we admit that we screwed up, still be a positive voice for the younger generations. So here's an interesting question. I guess the big question is, can we recover from this? Can we pay the bill the boomers left us? Okay. And the response is, I think we can, but it's imperative that we start sooner than later. After 24, also, it will get really hard to do anything meaningful. In fact, I think the choices might become so difficult that even fairly good people will get wrapped up in short-term self-interest. So if we unseat the boomers from Congress, from state legislators, and certainly from the presidency over the next 3 to 7 years, then I think we can undo the damage. That will require a higher tax rate and a degree of social solidarity that the country has not seen in over 50 years. That will not be easy, and there's no way around the fact that millennials will have to sacrifice in ways that baby boomers refuse to sacrifice. And that's where we are right now. And these are the choices that we face. And I'm going to park it here. Okay. So as you can see here, we effed up as a generation, as a collective, we have screwed up. Okay. And the fact of the matter is, we're gonna have to take the L on this one. We're gonna have to acknowledge that we did screw up. And you know what we're gonna have to do? We're gonna have to oh eat a healthy portion of humble pie. Okay. And what we're gonna need to do is we're gonna need to uh, pass the baton, so to speak, to the younger generation. Okay. And give them an opportunity to them to implement policies and beliefs which will make things better. Okay. But you know what's the problem? The problem is that's going to require the fact that we're going to have to be humble enough and accept the fact we screwed up. And we're going to have to give up our position as far as being the movers and shakers and let the millennials and the Gen Z people uh, do their part. Now, are they going to make mistakes? Yes. Okay. Um, but what this is where we as baby boomers we have a role. Okay. What we can do is first of all own up to the mistakes that we have made. Number one. And then what we can do is do our part to help prepare the next generations to take over. And let's make it perfectly clear. Undo the mess that we made, and we're gonna have to be gracious, and we're gonna have to accept the fact that you know what, we screwed up, okay, and just sit in the background and enjoy our retirement years as best as we can. That's something we all gonna need to do, okay, and okay, excuse me, just give me a moment. Okay, so I'm gonna see if I can share. Okay, okay. Just bear with me because unfortunately my Wi-Fi is acting up. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is okay. Let's see. Just give me a moment. I'm gonna share one more article. I have a feeling this stream is going to be a short one because unfortunately, uh, let's see, it's not a lot of activity. So my okay. Okay. Thanks. Okay. Well, anyway, thank you very much for stopping by, Irby. Thank you very much. Yes, that's a good idea. People, please hit the like. Okay. It doesn't cost you anything to hit the like button. Okay. And it does help with the algorithms. Okay. So I really would appreciate it. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do. Okay. Okay. I'm going to share one more. Okay. Okay. So, so I'm going to share another article, and it comes from, so it's called GenBiz, and it was published by, and okay, actually it was written by Luke Followay, and it was published on April the 14th, 2019. And the headline is Millennials Really Due to Baby Boomer Mistakes. Okay. So what I'm going to do is so this is what the article says. The baby boomers born between 1946 and mid 1960s were born amidst bombs and mourning, but they emerged victorious and with that faith in a better tomorrow, a vision that they achieved. But today, baby boomer is a toxic phrase that evokes, in the worst case, vitriolic anger, and in the best case, frustrated resentment. It is almost as if the baby boomer has become the shorthand for greed, selfishness, and the millennial undoing. This is ironic since millennials are the ones who are supposed to feel so entitled and be so spoiled. Okay, so let's take a look what this article has to say. Accused of sabotaging the children's future, baby boomers seem to be on trial today. The charges that the baby boomers inherited a wealthy country with a raging economy and actually debt to GDP, gross national domestic product ratio, and perhaps the best infrastructure in the world. They basically bankrupt the country, leaving the generations to follow, especially the millennials, to struggle. Now, now here's an interesting question. Okay, oops, moment because okay. Is there any truth to the charges? Young people are extremely concerned about housing, jobs, healthcare, and the ever-dwindling possibility of retirement and pensions, while baby boomers are more concerned about, well, old people matters. Things such as the welfare state, health, and social care. One major, a bit macabre issue is that people are living longer these days, and so the bills keep people healthy are becoming bigger and longer. I know, dark. There is no doubt that the baby boomers have been running this country since the mid 1990s. While education was relatively cheap when they went to school, millennials now saddle with large student loans. The country infrastructure is in tatters, and the estimates for fixing it are in the trillions, according to the American Society of Civil Engineers. Well-paying jobs following the graduation from college were the rule for the boomers, and only own home follow closely thereafter. Take housing for an example. Only a third of millennials own their own homes, compared to almost two-thirds of baby boomers at the same age. And it will take a millennial on average 19 years to but for the deposit. It only took 3 years in the 1980s. Whereas in the 1980s, about 6% of the income was spent on housing. Now millennials must pay around a quarter of their net income in housing if they are lucky. So the question is the following. What's to be done? Baby boomers inherited a well-oiled machine of an economy that ticked along an unprecedented rate with good jobs to be had for the taking and wage increasing, and they acted as if they were never going to end. Not ever experience any real adversity. The baby boomers have founded several wars and left millennials with a debt to GDP ratio at about more than 100%. Although a slim minority of millennials are rich, the vast majority are bordering on poor. There have been studies on how it has all come to be this way. The Resolution Foundation, a British foundation, has compiled forensic information about the matter that reveals that the major issues that have been in creating this poverty is certain government policies, interesting things that are filled to the brim with baby boomers, especially policies that are reluctant to tackle the issues as the housing crisis, health, and social. But what's there to be done? Well, that is the question. So here we have some upsetting facts. We're living in an age where people with PhDs in biochemistry or comparative literature are wearing Mickey Mouse costumes at Disneyland and dancing for children while camera flashes go off in their faces. We're living in an age when we have no pension and no house to sell in order to see them through old age, and we're living the age of the FKD. More fun facts. 2 out of 5 non-graduate jobs that are filled by people with degrees. The proportion of low-paid jobs worked by young people has increased by almost 50% between 1994 and 2015. So, what are the takeaways? In 40 years, what will be the life of millennial? What will the life of the millennial look like? With the passage of time, we might see the millennial generation became dependent on housing benefits, living in rent accommodations and surviving on pensions that can barely support them, certainly not well. Meanwhile, baby boomers scrape up the last of healthy, comfortable living scraps. Some argue, however, that even older generation than the baby boomers that have the real say-so in politics. These folks argue somewhat sanguinely, except for the whole dying thing, that they die off, baby boomers and millennials can tackle the millennial strife as a team. The cost of education, healthcare, and Social Security are predicted to rise in the decades to come. Millennials will survive these increases only if something changes. It's time to reestablish social justice and repair the damage done by millennial confidence, trust, well-being, and mostly optimism in the baby boomer demographic. We can no longer allow a situation where 95% survive on too little, while 5% are glutted into excess. Whether or not it is the baby boom's fault, we don't know. But they definitely have a hand in this. That is for sure. Okay, and we're going to park it here. Okay, so as you can see, based on the information, and this is not a Hosseini grown thing, this is facts. We have made some major mistakes along the way. And the reality is this: it's going to be a heck of a struggle to undo the damages that we have made. Okay. What we need to do is the following. Number one, we're going to need to accept the fact that we had screwed up big time. That's number one. We're going to have to accept the fact that, unfortunately, we left future generations with an unholy mess, which is going to take a long time to resolve. Okay. So the first thing we need to do is to accept that we screwed up. That's number one. Number two, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to do our part to prepare the future generations to take over, to get involved in politics and business and other areas so they can, I hate to say this, undo the mess that we did. Okay. And we're going to have to stay in the background and enjoy a life where we're going to have to let the younger generations take over. We had our opportunity to deal with all this. We had a good 30, 40 years of running things only to make a freak show of things. So we're going to have to take the L on this one, and we're going to have to be humble. And I just want to say to all the millennials and the Gen Z's people, on behalf of us baby boomers, I sincerely apologize for all the misdeeds that we have done and the fact that we did not do a great job being role models and helping you become productive members of our society. And what I'm going to encourage my fellow baby boomers is the following. First of all, we're going to have to accept the fact that we screwed up. Okay, we're going to be humble and take the L on this one. Also, what we need to do is help educate the younger generations to do better, and that and then we're going to have to graciously bow out and just stay in the background, and hopefully by us doing our part to equip the future generations the ability to make effective changes, and then we're gonna have to just hope for the best. Okay. Now, what I'm gonna do, there's gonna be 2 streams. Actually, what I'm gonna do is there's gonna be 2 to 3 streams next week. Okay. Actually, this week. I'm sorry. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna post it on my my community tab. Okay, regarding what's gonna be the topics. Okay. What I'll probably do tomorrow is do a short lunchtime video regarding what's going to be the topics. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have discussion, okay? Like I said before, I felt in my spirit that we needed to have this discussion, okay? Now we are going to get into a topic which I call the Victimization Olympics. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out to Denise, and what we're going to do is we're going to try to schedule a time where we can actually get into discussion regarding people who love to play victim, okay? And among the people that we're going to discuss it are, first of all, the baby boomers, and also other members of other communities in regards to that topic. Okay, so there will be another stream at 9 o'clock. There's going to be another stream on Thursday. I'm not sure whether I'm going to do an issue Latina diaspora or Uncommon Sense, but definitely in either case, I'm going to do at least 2 more streams. So that being said, what I'm going to do is what I'm going to ask is the following. I'm going to give people permission to share this stream, because I want it to be fully known that at least this baby boomer is going to take a responsibility for the action that my generation has made, and I'm going to do my part to try to undo the damage that we did, and I'm going to do my part to try to help educate the younger generations so they can take over. And the fact of the matter is, it's time for people like myself to graciously bow out, so to speak. We had our opportunity. The best thing we can do now is to accept accountability for our mistakes and do our part to help prepare younger generations to take over. So that being said, I thank you everybody for watching this, whether it be live or on the playback. You're more than welcome to enter a comment after the stream is over. Please be respectful though. So with that being said, this has been another episode of Uncommon Sense with Jose Negron. And I wish everyone a good night. Take care and peace.